Hi, this is Kalyan from PSYsolution. Today is the second session. I'll just mute the other participants. Yeah, today is the second session in the series of ABC of PNC. The topic is bases of PNC. Basis is plural of basis. So I welcome the panelists today. A few more panelists will join in a while. So we have MEENU from Bikaner, HARPREET from Mumbai, MEGHA from Delhi, NIDHI from Bangalore. So to avoid noise, we have muted everyone. So the format, guys, for all the audience, the format is same. That I'll be proposing the concept in the first half of the talk for the show. It will may take 15 to 20 minutes or plus minus 2-3 minutes more. And then the question answer starts. And by that time, whoever gets any question, they can note down the panelist I request, and they can just put it when the time comes. And other audiences, they can post their comments in the comment section of YouTube or Facebook, wherever. Because we are live on both the platforms, YouTube and Facebook. So without much delay, I'll start the session today. So meanwhile, I'll keep you all in the backstage, the panelists. So we'll rejoin after I finish the proposal. Right. So today's topic is basis of PNC. So in this, I will be covering two primary bases: dialectics and vitality conservation. Dialectics and vitality conservation. So to start with, we have to actually understand why dialectics. That's the primary aspect. And why dialectics, we'll come to that. But what is dialectics? Let me explain those who are finding this word is a new word. It's a process. Dialectics is a process of argumentation, we call it, where argument and counter arguments help us to come to a conclusive understanding for time being. Maybe it will be further layer by layer will be proceeding towards the truth. So it's a process of proceeding towards the truth by argumentation, and argumentation is definitely through questioning that happens. When we question the confronted information, the dialectics occur. So I see Dr. Sathish also has joined. Dr. Sathish will be staying in the backstage because we have started the proposal. After 15 minutes, I'll be adding you. So please stay tuned, being in the backstage. Welcome to the session, sir. So the dialectics is that process of argumentation to reach the truth. But now, why dialectics is so important in PNC? In PNC, we actually follow this rule of structure governs function. As I yesterday shared, that it is a materialistic science where matter first approach is opted. Now the structure governs the function. What is the meaning of that? Suppose my hand is structured this way, I can make a fist this way. I cannot make a fist in the reverse way. The function of this fist depends upon the structure. So structure controls the function, not otherwise. That is the primary understanding that we follow. Now, under this concept of structure governs function, we will be actually taking two understanding. One is the species specific, other is the individual specific. What is the meaning of species specific? We are Homo sapiens, a species of mankind. Now, in this species, we have an evolution history. And that evolution history actually takes us to some structural evolution. And that structural evolution takes us some functional evolution also. We'll look at that. And after that, we'll also look at the individual evolution in terms of the structure and the function. Now, the species growth and the individualistic growth happens this way. the species structure, primarily the neuron structure has been evolved over the years. The neural structure, overall structure, and the neural structures both evolved over the years. If you look at this image, you'll see that the expansion of the skull size happened. So skull actually houses the headquarter of neurons. So slowly and gradually, from simple to the complex, the neural structure happens, and that structure supported a function. That function is nothing but the reasoning capability. Over the time, Homo sapiens has been evolved with their reasoning capability. Asking why is the primary capacity that has been executed by Homo sapiens. And as you see, this world is led by the Homo sapiens so far. So this aspect is very important to understand, that the neural evolution of the species actually made the evolution in the function of questioning and dialectics. So this is absolutely a natural aspects of Homo sapiens to execute the dialectics. We need to understand. And in this process of evolution of the dialectics, we have executed the intellectuals activities in different ways. So all these things, if we misterm as conspiracy or wrongdoings, like the invention of medicine or invention of cooked food, these are actually misunderstood as conspiracy or misdoing. These are in that specific period it was needed. Now this is very high time to expand our function of dialectics further, to understand and undo the things which can be undone for a better sense of life. That's what is the objective of this dialectics. Now coming to the aspect of individual growth. Individual growth, the growth of the structure is very known and very evident for all of us, that it actually grows from birth to old age and the death, right? So individual evolution of the structure is very understandable, and it doesn't need any rocket science to understand, right? So under this evolution of the structure, if we bring some lifespan framework, then this lifespan framework will explain the structure in little bit further dialectical way. In this particular image, as you see, 0 is the birth point and 3 is the death point, which is somewhere in the line. In this you see a cone where there is a point, a straight line as 1, and there is a straight line as 2. So point 0 is nothing but the birth, point of birth, very specific. Point 1, the straight line 1, is the physical maturation, when the physical growth is completed. And after that, after the physical growth is complete, so this is the period of physical growth, which is in green, as you see in the lifespan. And after that, there is a physiological maturation, perfection in the physiological maturation that happens. In that period, procreation also happens, statistically speaking. So there, the straight line 2 is the physical maturation of the offspring, of the children. And further, it is point 3, it is death somewhere. This is the structural framework of the lifespan. And this point 3 is predominantly, after 2 is the psychological growth, which is unlimited. There is no specific point we can identify. Nobody can identify. Right. Now, on this lifespan framework, if we understand the growth of function corresponding to that framework, the same framework, if we understand the function, then in the first phase, the primary function is the reason. The primary function is the reason and development of the intellect, because the neuron development also happens from after the birth, slowly and gradually as the individual grows. So the first and foremost development is the reason. Then after the reason, there is a flexibility and application of the intellect that happens, where we see that we cannot remain rigid when we become parents, But as a child, we were rigid and we focus on the reasons a lot. So after execution of the flexibility in pure nature cure, also we understand that the flexibility brings lot of conservation, and that conservation brings lot of emergencies of wisdom and health and further wellness. So these are the functional evolution for an individual, right? So that's what is the dialectics and the natural importance of the dialectics I propose for the panel. And just before concluding the dialectics, the meaning of dialectics, I'll just bring upon the two important conditions in dialectics. The first condition is there are things which may not be comprehensible with reasons. It is identified in dialectics. If we consider that dialectics means a rigid science, that's not true. Dialectics identifies that there are the things which are beyond reasons. So we need to understand that. But the second is the more important aspect, that we don't conclude anything if reason is not identified or explored. That's very important. So finally, with this Venn diagram, I'll explain the rationality or dialectics. There's a superset of the rationality where the reason is a small zone. Reason is a smaller circle and it's a zone. But beyond that, there are things which are identified in the rationality but not concluded. It's better to say I don't know than to conclude it with assumption. With that, I'll take a pause and I'll take few questions from the panelists. I'll bring them on air so that they can. Welcome, Dr. Sathish. Welcome, Nidhi. Welcome, Meenu. Welcome, HARPREET. MEGHA. Those who have some problem in the mic or audio, they can just mute and unmute when they'll speak. Yeah. Yeah. Is there any question or proposal, counter proposal?
Sir.
Yes, HARPREET.
So can you just give a little example for the two important conditions in dialectics which you said, that
Yes.
slide? There are
Yes.
things which may not be comprehensible with reasons. That I still understood. I can still think of some example.
Yes.
And the no conclusion if the reason are not explored. So I understood that what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So you're talking about the second condition?
Yeah, the second condition. Yeah, sir.
Yes, yes. So what is your question?
So can you just explain what does it mean? I mean,
right. So
some
many things. Suppose yesterday, if you have watched the recording of yesterday there was a question that what is this elemental aspects if we take some elemental supplements, what is the harm in that? So the proposal was that the individual organism has got tremendous capacity to transmute and synthesize the available elements within the body to produce the needed element. We don't need any supplement. Now, this is through observation we understand this. This is a reasonable understanding, comprehensible. But Harpreet is off air, it seems. Okay. Anyway, I'll continue the answer. Let her come back. So now, if we are asked that how this transmutation has happened, how does this transmutation happens or synthesizing happen? So we don't have an answer to that. But let's not conclude under any assumption or a partial analysis. That assumption is that medicinal understanding of supplementation. So we are talking about that non-conclusion. So yeah, so that's the answer for Harpreet's question, but Harpreet had got some network issues, maybe she'll be joining back. Yeah, any more question?
Can you hear Kalyan?
Yeah, hi, Dr. Sathish.
Hi. Yeah. So I have a doubt related with this materialistic and idealistic yesterday discussed in yesterday's session. Okay, yes. So you gave the example of food. Like first you change the food, and then you can find out the difference. So food is it's actually considered as a matter. So my doubt is to change the food. it is we have to change our mind, and that is personally I'm feeling it very difficult to change the mind, especially in terms of food. Our food preferences and the best food that we like, and that is there in our mind. So first and then matter second.
Right. So let's take ourselves little deeper into this particular aspect, where this food modification have been done. This has happened through the intellectual modification, intellectual intervention, due to many reasons. I don't deny that. I'm not saying that those are unjustified, but that has happened due to some intentional intervention. Now that needs to be undone. Now, as you said, that the matter change needs a mind change. So mind needs to understand the back history. Tomorrow actually is the session where we'll be understanding the primary principle of PNC, where we will be understanding where we went uh, away from nature. I'll not use the term right or wrong, but where we went away from nature through our intention. Intention is a mental activity, right? Intentional intervention, like invention through the food. Cooked food is an invention. So that went for a reason. So when we understand that reason through our mind, then the sailing will be better. Now the question is, why do we require this mind intervention if matter first? Matter is anyway first, because the mind deflected the matter. That time, that's the reason we have to intervene through the mind, but ultimately we have to change the matter. Yes, sir. You're saying something.
It's like even we understand also, it is difficult to control, because so much of maybe likeness or preferences or addiction to the food that we. So in order to change, I think
there are strategies. So as a first step, we need to acknowledge this fact that this food versus that food, where the conservation is better. When we understand that, after that there are strategies. There are strategies to implement. But first, acknowledgement is first. If we keep on giving justification that no, it should go ahead with like this, because for years we are on the cooked food, so we cannot change the cooked food. If this justification continues, then the change will not be possible. So first layer, the justification has to be answered. Justification has to be stopped. Yes. Yes, Harpreet, could you hear the answer? Your answer. You need to listen to the recordings for that. So I think Devang's raised the same question, which I have answered in the way of Harpreet's question. There are few more good evening messages. I'll just flash those on the screen. Then I'll bring back the continuation of the proposal. I just changed a little bit in the format because it's a very heavy topic today. Dialectics is the first proposal, the basis of PNC, and the second basis of the PNC is vitality conservation. So let's proceed with the vitality conservation proposal. If you guys are okay with muting mic, then I'll not remove you from the show. But removing, like muting, there will be a bar. Whether it is blocking you or not, you just tell me. I'll remove you so that your understanding should not be hampered.
So you can remove me, sir.
Okay, I'll remove MEENU. MEENU is asking to remove. I'll remove. I'll add you after the proposal is over. Right? For others, it's fine. Yeah, Dr. Sathish.
Yeah, maybe I think you can remove me also. Maybe that.
Okay, I'll remove all of you. Then I'll reconnect again after I complete this 10 minutes. So why vitality conservation? What is vitality first? Vitality is the non-perceivable aspect of the life. Life is a combination of body and something else. And that thing is the vitality, which actually moves the body. All the activities that we do, we use the vitality. Now, there was a question yesterday that is it the energy in the science, what we call energy? Yeah, almost it is. Let's see what is the definition of energy in physics. Energy is capacity of doing work. Now, in PNC, the vitality is the cause behind all the activities that a life performs. Now, if you just see both the definition, you will see a similarity. So vitality as good as is energy, but there is a small difference in understanding of non-living energy and the living vitality. Living vitality is equipped with an intelligence too, intelligence or wisdom or power, whatever. It is again that non-conclusive beyond reason zone, which actually helps us to evolve, grow. Energy, a bulb will not grow if you keep it. The electricity will be there, electrical energy is there, but it will not grow. So vitality, we can just say that the energy with the intelligence or innate wisdom. That is what is the vitality. Now coming to why vitality conservation is so important. Pure nature cure is an observatory science. In this observatory science, we observe and take the evidential clue to implement in our understanding. So in this observatory science, we see the single common thing in nature is the efficiency. Efficiency is a single common thing in every aspect of the nature. Every aspect in nature. So starting from a tree to a bigger movable organism, we see, and not only this, any non-living aspect also, we see a combination of these three things: efficiency, conservation, and symmetry, and how these are connected. Efficiency, what is the meaning of efficiency? Efficiency is the performance, optimum performance, and optimum performance is defined as highest level of conservation of energy. Any system which optimally perform, it conserves vitality, conserves energy. This is a fact in nature, and man-made creations also follows this rule. Your car is efficient if it conserves fuel, right? And the symmetry is a confirmation to conservation. Now, what is a symmetry? Symmetry is a pattern. Symmetry is a pattern which is achieved and maintained for the conservation. When we understand, or rather execute conservation, that time symmetry is maintained. And vice versa, when the symmetry is maintained, the conservation is achieved. Now, symmetry in nature, we can go hours talking about symmetry. Symmetry is a huge topic, and we will be having day after tomorrow the topic connected to symmetry, which is the ultimate principle of PNC we call. But the conservation is the primary aspect for the efficiency. This is the primary understanding. Now, coming to the conservation and isolation. Isolation. In physics, we study about the systems. When we study about the system, there are three types of systems: open, closed, and isolated. Now, open and closed system does exchange energy with the surrounding, but isolated system doesn't exchange energy with the surrounding. So the most conserving system is the isolated system, because there is no exchange of energy with the surroundings. Whatever is there, that is conserved within. Now, coming to the organisms. Organisms, when we watch, we see that organisms have got a programmatic capability of regulation, apart from the repair and reproduce, because these are the three primary identified capabilities of organisms: repair, reproduce, and regulation. Regulation means the internal capacity of the organism regulate itself so that the external surrounding doesn't overpower. And what is the evidence? Evidence is the body temperature. The body temperature of all the organism, be it exothermic or endothermic, physiologically or physically, it is managed and kept as a static temperature. So for Homo sapiens, 37 degree is the temperature which is maintained irrespective of the climatical temperature. So this is the power of regulation, and which makes us isolated. We have the capability to regulate, and we have the capability to isolate. So now this isolation aspect in physics also, it is accepted that isolation cannot be ideal all the time. So ideal isolation cannot be possible, but an isolated system can conserve well. So accepting the fact of isolation actually helps us to conserve, and conserving helps us to remain isolated. This is a correlated aspect. And when we talk about the isolation, then we can bring another concept from physics, the first law of thermodynamics, which says that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed in an isolated system. This is also known as the law of conservation of energy. So we all are actually isolated system in most of the time, and we follow this rule. And PNC accept this first law of thermodynamics and proposes that the vitality quotient which we receive at the time of conception remains with us. That cannot be expanded, that cannot be depleted completely till the body is not perished, right? So the fixed quotient of the vitality is the proposal. Now body doesn't work, does work on the food, not the otherwise. This is another contradiction from the medicinal understanding, where it is proposed that the food gives us energy. Now I'll bring some rationales to defy this calorie concept. First of all, calorie concept is a part analysis, and in nature cure we defy the part analysis. We don't accept the part analysis, because part analysis is always a limited analysis. It is not a whole analysis, number one. Number two, calorie concept is a generalized concept. A specific food will give us specific calorie to everyone. It is absolutely absurd, because we all are uniquely structured, and as we work on the food, the different type of responses we get, how that can be generalized. And the last but not the least is the example of breatharians. Breatharians are those who actually survive on only breathing. They don't consume food. So we don't encourage this breatharianism, but breatharians are available in the world, and they actually achieve it strategically, like an athlete. They achieve it. But the point here that I'm putting forward is how they survive without food, if the food is the source of energy, right? So without much delay, I'll just unfold few attributing factors of vitality, because these aspects are actually very condensed aspect, and it needs hours to discuss. Now, without much delay, I'll just share few ideas of vitality, so that the forthcoming episodes are understandable and comprehensible. Now, attributing factors of vitality are these three: genetics, environment, and lifestyle. Genetic, environment, and lifestyle. Now, genetic are genes. The parents actually, the health of parents help us to receive a specific quantum of vitality at the time of conception. But once it is cast, it is cast. So analyzing genetics is not that much useful. It may be helpful to understand few things, but it is not a lot of things you can do by undoing the genetics. You cannot undo your genes. What is cast is cast. Now, environment is another impact that is on the vitality, like pollution and all these aspects, impure water. So these aspects are a community effort which is identified, but it cannot be self-controlled. That is another fact we need to identify. So what is there in our control is this: the lifestyle. Lifestyle is in our control completely, and lifestyle has got these three factors: physical, physiological, and psychological, as we have seen in the previous slides. That these three areas, in these three domains, we have lot of possibilities of conserving vitality and having a better sense of life. Now, vitality is that unique wallet where the bad news, it comes that you can't earn more, but the good news is you have enough. And the evidence of this good news is, from a single cell zygote, you are a full form body now. And the driving force was that vitality. It is an enough quantum that you have to achieve this full form, full life form. Now you have to just manage it to have a better sense of life. Now, to understand vitality, I just bring this example for illustration. Just try and understand, vitality is a huge group of multitasking laborers within your body. So vitality total quotient is a huge group of multitasking. Multitasking means the vitality which helps us to blink our eyes can help us to deep think. So that total quotient is that total group. The totality of the group is the total quotient. Now hold on. There are three more things. The next is needful engagement of the vitality. The engaged labor force in needful works. So in this factory, whatever the needful, unavoidable works, if you engage some labor force, that is the needful engagement of the vitality. Let's call it a red zone. Right? Now, there is another additional engagement of vitality. Few of the labor force is engaged in some of the non-useful, unnecessary works, unimportant works. That is the additional engaged vitality. Let's call it black zone. And there is a third category, which is unused, conserved vitality. So the disengaged labor force, who all are ready to work, all are raising hand that we want to work. So this is the conserved vitality, and let's call it a green zone. And let's try and understand this in this vitality of a moment through this bar. In this bar, suppose if we plot the points A, B, C, and D, then AB is that green zone, disengaged vitality. BC is that additional vitality, that black zone. And the red zone is CD, that is the organically engaged vitality. Now, organically engaged vitality cannot be reversed. The reversal cannot be possible. And this green zone is your sense of life. Right now, whatever the sense of life that you are sensing, that is this green zone. So you need to understand that. Now, this black portion is our area of modification, which can be reduced, And that's what is the goal of PNC, to have a better sense of life and better sense of conservation of vitality. So with that, I bring the panel to the show. I think others are facing some network issues to join back. So I open this for question. I'll be taking the questions from social media also. Yes.
Yes, Kalyan, sir?
Yes, Megha.
Kalyan, sir?
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for allowing us to ask as many questions to you. Thank you. So one question I have, like, as we've studied vitality conservation today, and when we understand that concept, we automatically understand. Being a nutritionist, if I understand the concept of vitality management, I understand that the food which uses our less vitality is good for our body. It's exactly proportional to it, comes like that. So then it comes vegetable, fruits, as you've always advised us. That is the sequence we follow, like first fruits and vegetables and little bit of legumes and then seeds and nuts.
Yes.
And it is very much in proportion to vitality conservation.
Yes.
But another science which tells us the importance of having good protein for because it's a bodybuilding. Of course, we don't divide in PNC the carbohydrates, proteins, and we don't divide it like that. But we cannot deny the fact that proteins does help us in muscle development. Calcium does help us in bones. I know I've always been in the middle of the. So, as a layman who's always studied, like, you know, uh,
Yeah, I'll help
protein
you
is
to understand
important
this.
and fiber is important. So, how do we? And we know that if protein will will have more will consume more vitality for digestion in respect of fruits and vegetables. So it kind of contradicts, comes in my mind, like how can we
Yes.
balance the importance of both sides?
Yes. So there is this theory of understanding the density factor that we understand in PNC, where if we observe the protein that you call, we call it concentrated food. Concentrated food is needed. Obviously, it is needed, but the density of concentrated food is much higher than the human body density. So, huge quantum of protein consumption is not recommended with the rationale of density difference. But
Right.
requirement of protein, the concentrated food, is very much identified that will cover.
Right.
Now these aspects, this requirement, muscle development requirement, and what elements that we need, who will tell us? A lab or my voice of the organism? So, if the next session is on that voice of the organism, the primary principle of PNC, that will help us to identify our real voice of the organism, which is deconditioned, less conditioned rather, which will help us to achieve a state of health which is driven by me only. I need not to be told by an expert that this much of protein you needed, this much of carbohydrate you needed. Think about a state where I am equipped with an indicator that what I need really, I can identify that. So PNC is that. Well, yes. Yes. Any other
Thank
question?
you. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, Dr. Satish.
Yeah, this is in terms of conservation.
Yes.
I have a little doubt in terms of another one. Okay, it's in terms of spending. And so there are some other ways. Health is by spending, like for example, exercise. So we are spending energy in, when we are doing exercise. So exercise is actually bringing more health. So how can we actually connect these two?
Thanks a lot for this question. This is a very needful question. And regulation. Regulation, I talked about one capability of regulation. Now, suppose you are eating mango. Exercise is little extreme example. I'll just bring the example of eating mangoes. Eating mangoes. So when you eat mango, it has to be disintegrated within the body. That needs vitality, right? So should we engage that vitality or not? That could be a question also. That if we have to conserve vitality, then we should not eat it at all. Then the answer comes that identifying that regulating act. Regulating act means it is a voice of the organism. Your hunger, your attraction towards the mango is that regulation, which is regulating you to eat. Then after some time of consumption, suppose you consumed one mango, two mangoes, three mangoes, four mangoes. After that, there is a regulation automatically comes up. No, I cannot eat further. So this is what is that regulation that confirms the conservation. So we need not to worry. If we understand the aspect of regulation and the voice of the organism, then this engagement of the vitality and disengagement of the vitality comes automatically. Yes. So understanding is a regulation. Understanding regulation is the answer. So there are a few questions from social media also. Can you throw some light on the psychological aspect which you explained in dialectics? How can we put emphasis on psychological aspect? So the starting point, Soparna, is always modifying the physical. You understand the whole concept. The importance of psychology is the ultimate, but starting point is always a physical aspect. Then slowly and gradually you can graduate to physiology and psychology. That's the general recommendation. Now specific cases needs to be evaluated, analyzed, right? Manish is there. Manish posted this question: when we stop eating, gradually the discomfort grows, which leads to lethargy, weakness sets in, and again when we resume eating, the symptoms are reversed. Is this not proof of enough that food gives energy? This is the proof of your hunger actually innervates you. Your sense of hunger innervates you from within. That's a regulating capability that engages a lot of vitality, that feels you depleted. When your hunger is satiated, that time that innervation is released. That time you feel energetic. That is not the energy that food brings in. It is a disengaged energy from within that gives you a sense of energy. Manish, if that answers. There is another question from Soparna. Is there an over engagement of vitality in creative thinking or in deep thinking on topic of our choice? Yes, so there is an engagement definitely in thinking process, which is huge, unidentifiable, like this is undeniable, huge engagement in thinking process. But whether it is an over engagement or a managed engagement, that actually can be identified whether you are impulsive about that thinking or not, whether you are obsessive about that thinking or not. If you are obsessive about that thinking, then it is depleting. If you are in a neutral state in that process of deep thinking, then it is not an over engagement. So we will go deeper in these aspects. These are coming forward, we will be touching upon. So any other question? Harpreet, Meenu? Nidhi actually couldn't join, it seems. Nidhi has some, yes.
Sir, on the point of exercise which Dr. Sathish pointed out, I just wanted to ask, like, because if so, the regulation that you were talking about, while exercising also, if we are listening to ourselves, like, so whenever in between we have to keep resting, whenever the rest is demanded while exercising, and do light stretching exercises or whatever is soothing for us, and not a strenuous kind of exercise where lot of I think
Absolutely,
is that
absolutely. Mindful exercise will lead us to conservation of vitality during the exercise also. So there is a question back from Manish, but Kalyan, if we stop eating forever, it will lead to death. The example of breatharians I have given, Manish, in the talk you have listened to. So breatharians actually don't eat, but they don't die. How that happens? That doesn't mean that I am encouraging breatharianism, but I'm saying that without food, survival is possible. So the energy source as food is just an assumption. There are questions from YouTube. How can one balance carbs, proteins, and other nutrients if one is into sports? Lab will not tell us about them, but those parameters needs to be balanced for better performance. Yes, Ram, that's absolutely true, that we need to have a balanced nutrients, but we don't identify these names of carbs and proteins. But a balanced nutrients is definitely needed, and that's very usual prescription that we'll take in the 7th day of this series. But before that, I insist you understand the complete rationale and dialectics of this PNC to opt for that prescription. Right, guys, so it's overshooting by 15 minutes almost today, and I think we can conclude today and resume tomorrow at 5 with a new topic, unless any compelling question is there with you.
Fine, Kalyan.
Yeah, there is a question from Manish once again. I'll just help him to get that breatharian spelling. He wants the spelling of breatharian. There's that slide. Yes, let me bring that on. Breatharianism. Yes, there you go. Here, Binal also typed in breatharians. Manish, hope it answers. your question. So guys, I'll just bring the last slide. If you wish to dive deeper, join our workshops. This is not just a commercial advertisements, but an appeal to co-evolve. And if you value this work, you can contribute. For details, you can WhatsApp on this number. Looking forward to see you all tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Thanks all the panelists
Thank
and
you,
the
sir.
audience
Thank you,
on the
sir.
social media. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Harpreet. Thank you,
Thanks,
Megha.
thanks, sir. Thanks,
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir. Thank you, Meenu.
Bye.